Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads must converses the channel. Um, Thanks for coming by. Happy Friday live, everybody. This is going to be really, really fun. Um, got some cool stuff lined up for tonight, but just in true professional BookTube fashion, the final thing that I did is give Daniel Backer the link for I was like right at the very end here, 40 seconds until we start. I was like, I never shared the link with the guy. What am I doing? How you doing, y'all? Christina, hey, fighting sleep. Yep, you on the other side. Nice to see you. Hey, Daniel, that's what I'm talking about. I threw it in Instagram, brother. We're gonna get together with Daniel tonight. I can't wait to talk to you, man. Should have set it up a little earlier. Hey, Alexa, nice to see you, brother. Hey, Nick, nice to see you. Always awesome. And Tyler, the Falcon in the house. Trish, happy Friday, and I will be showing off a little something that I got today. Oh, where is it? It's right. You see it in my background, right? Bam. Very, very cool. Yeah, good evening. Happy Friday. Hey, Greg. How are you doing? Greg at another Bibliophile Reads. Thanks for coming by. Happy Friday. All that. So, man, what some I've been reading like a crazy person. It's been really cool reading, and I got a lot of stuff that I'm just burning through. I haven't created a lot of content on like dedicated videos, so I'm just like off to the races on one right after the other because it's been all this kind of small stuff. Of course, just did very cool, Daniel. Jump on. I dropped it in Instagram. You got it, and we are all good. I finished the read along with Una, right? Obscene Madam D video dropped yesterday, our discussion, and then Pedro Paramo was right before that. These are very powerful, awesome short works. Check it out if you're interested in something that you can read quick like that. Obscene Madam D is not for everybody. It might be for a very small selection of people, actually, but you never know. Obscene Madam D, Hilda Hilst comes out of Brazil, same time and place as Clarice Lispector. They were contemporaries, and there is you feel the influence on each other. Um, Remains to be seen. I haven't read anything but one by Hilda Hilst, and then like three and short stories as well by Lispector. So have a little bit more grasp of what she's about, but how they inform each other is very, very interesting. And our discussion was very interesting. Obscene Madam D is a very interesting book. Literarily speaking, it is. I was so impressed, very, very highly impressed. I, you know, everybody should read it. It's not going to be for everybody. I get it, and no harm, no foul at all. And other than that, I mean, what's on the docket is just small stuff. I want to get through so many things that, I consider a small book anything under 300 pages. If it has a 200-page mark t- within the 200s, then I'm going to read it fairly quickly. And I want these kind of things after my big book year last year. It was crazy to read so many big books and to give up that much time to seeing what I could get out of just focusing on these longer novels. And there was a double-edged kind of neglect of shorter works in that year, and not reading as many quantity, because it's a 1,000-page novel is going to take up 4 or 5 of the books that I'm reading through the first part of 2022, and I want to keep it going. So um I will make content. I want to make content on a lot of what I've read. I do have future Home of the Living God still out here because I haven't created any kind of content, but I definitely am down to just get with Jack and talk about this together because I think our posthumous memoirs of Bras Cubas video was really really fun and cool. So I'll do it again. Jack is a great reader, a very strong reader. How's everybody doing tonight? For sure. I had a brutal week. It was really, really trying, you know. But that's just work with that physically. And then finally at the Friday, Fridays are always a lot of fun. And I'm up I'm just up for Friday nights, you know, because through the live and doing this right here is kind of a change of perspective from you know, the grind, right? And so next coming up, I want to jump into and just read Nathaniel West, Miss Lonely Hearts, and The Locust, the Day of the Locust. So I think I'm just gonna crush it, right? It's two novellas in this small binding, and then um, I might start before that, Sula by Toni Morrison. So I'm just gonna not get into this because why not? I've been wanting to get more Toni Morrison. I need to read Toni Morrison, and then like people love Beloved, like just completely love it. Hey PG, I ain't finna read that. Nice to see you. Happy Friday for sure. Um, PG, I ain't finna read that, and I did a read of David Foster Wallace's Oblivion, the short story collection, and it was an awesome read and discussions, things that we had. So things that we got into. But that was a while ago. So we're retouching the final story. It's called The Suffering Channel. So if you know, then you know. It's gonna be some great discussion, brother. Am I right? Yeah, right, Nick. I can't wait. I'm gonna go back to back Morrison, Toni Morrison. Um, and I'm gonna do Nathaniel West, Day of the Locust, and Miss Lonely Hearts. While I do that, that'll be like the next four, I think. But I need to jump into in there, maybe in between the shorter stuff, in between Nathaniel West, I might jump onto another Saramago because I'm kind of prepping for a Saramago discussion. Very cool. Yeah, buddy. I can't wait to do it. What's up, bud? Hey, Book Nick. Y'all should check out Book Nick's channel. Very neglected. There we go. Bam. Very neglected BookTube channel. Does mixed content. So check it out if you're into pipe smoking and reading. Does some cool stuff. And I just finished, like I'm saying, through busting through so many novels, you know, very quickly. I just finished In Watermelon Sugar. It was really, really cool. Yeah, no joke, man. I can't wait for Toni Morrison. I mean, you know, and it was a debate in myself to go for James Baldwin or Toni Morrison. I'm like, I need it. Or Richard Wright. I need more of his stuff too. And so I was like, I need to do it. But Toni Morrison, I just have to. That's number one. But this was a very trippy book, that's for sure. A very trippy book, that's for sure. But it turned out to be, as far as a writer and experiencing their storytelling, so subdued and gentle. It's almost like all the characters in this book are on Prozac. Um, you know, it's like a bird is over there, right? But you don't get it, but you're getting a first person narration in this. So it's like a bird is over there it's looking for something. After a little bit, it forgets or, doesn't find what it's looking for, gets tired and flies away. That's the explanation of what the bird is doing over there on the side. And it's like, it's probably, it might be more realistic that it's looking for food, looking for a worm, pecking at the ground where it thought something was moving, whatever. But it's like, oh, it was looking for something. After a while, it didn't find what it was looking for, and then it flew away. And it's like this almost utopian view of a society structure. But that's where the elements of it not making sense and it's totally magical, not real, um, come in, and it explores this kind of thing in a very cool way. But the author's voice is so um, calm and subdued and gentle. It's a very cool book. And it's not that this is a really cool book, that it is, but Richard Brautigan has a very cool voice as an author. So I do recommend checking out some Brautigan. I'm gonna read some more, and then we'll see. You know what I mean? If how In Watermelon Sugar holds up to other things that he wrote, I don't know. But I do have some more. If y'all watching the lives, you see my hauling. So I did get a three books in one binding of Richard Brautigan not too long ago. I think I did put it down here on the to be read shelf. Yeah, it's got Confederate General and from Big Sur, which is very highly acclaimed as far as Brautigan goes. So that'll be the next thing. And then this one has Dreaming of Babylon and the Hawkline Monster as well. So, we'll see how it goes, right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Greg. I need more. I'll read The Outsider for sure. I need some more. I did pick up Native. I have that, but I haven't read it. Yeah. He had some mental issues and alcohol abuse issues for sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Nick. I found it at the freaking Goodwill, right? It was ridiculous. So I was like, who's giving up Brautigan at the freaking Goodwill? But it happened. It happened to me. Where's my boy Daniel? So, all right. Um, what's coming up? I've said a little bit. Other things that I'm going to jump on pretty soon is Stone Raft Saramago. I'm prepping for a talk just all about Saramago. So this is going to be read before that talk. Yeah, I'm ready, brother. I've been ready. I was born ready for this. Um this kind of thing. I'm going to uh get some more Saramago that's not the religion, the anti-religious tinge, the anti Western spirituality tinge to it, and see how that goes, because Blindness was great and Double was great, the Double, but Blindness was great in a certain kind of way where it's one of the most horrifying books that I've ever read, just because you know you don't want to think about such a horrific thing all day long. you know I'm going to indulge it. I was indulging it while I read it. And other than that, not looking. Yeah, I'll do some more Philip K. Dick for sure. My favorite Philip K. Dick is the later stuff. So I wouldn't be opposed to covering. I mean, the transmigration of Timothy Archer. I didn't really get a lot out of a first reading of the transmigration of Timothy Archer, but I would be down to do another reading and do content. And then Valus, the book Valus, I haven't ever done content on, but I've read it a couple of times, and it's really, really good. It's totally worth exploring, right? I love the ending. I love where he really takes it. And I believe I do have content on Ubik. That is an amazing book. But I'll read A Scanner Darkly, and maybe I'd read earlier stuff too if it's highly recommended. Do you have any suggestions of what you might want to see? I would like to put content out there covering Philip K. Dick's exegesis as well, because the exegesis is a total mind blow. Nice. What book did you find from Saramago? All right, so my boy Daniel has jumped into the stream, so let's welcome him on. Hey, brother.
Hey, Noah, how you doing?
Good. How are you tonight?
Doing fantastic. Even better now.
Cool. Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Happy Friday. So,
yes,
you seem like this kind of guy. I love it. That where you have your hands in a lot of different stuff, and you just like, how I kind of envision myself being a hobby guy when I'm like, I'm just kind of a hobby guy. I have all these I have different passions, different things that I like to put my energy into, and sometimes they line up and it becomes like a project, and then sometimes they don't line up, and then they're separate parts of what I kind of like, and then to consolidate that and really focus and do something is very fulfilling sometimes, and it's just like, a great way to express and to grow and to flex this kind of thing and think, what am I really doing in this kind of stuff? And I see you like just doing this kind of thing, and the kind of thing I've done my whole life, trying to just express yourself in through things that you're passionate about.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
Daniel here is an author, a BookTube creator, great discussions on your channel all the time. Not including, and but I'm not necessarily referring to our past discussions, which have been very cool, I think. But you also are into music, musician, and now going into, have a very cinematic eye and want to pursue production and this kind of thing, and it's great. So you want to speak into that a little bit? I'd love to just
sure.
dig.
I'll start by saying that it's caused a lot of problems, so I wouldn't recommend it. Turn away now. Definitely specialize. Never diversify. No, so yeah, I just have always been really interested in the creative process. Just I think it's super magical to be able to take an idea and then to see it through and to make it real. And I I think especially when I was younger, maybe in like late high school, early college, I always felt a little bit guilty that I didn't specialize in anything, because it seemed like the people who were really not even just successful, but just like really excelling at the things that they were doing had just put all their eggs in one basket and just said, I am a filmmaker, I am a comedian, this, that, or the other. And I always had a hard time doing that because I'd get like bored of something really soon and I'd want to go try something else. And so that was what most of my 20s was just kind of
Sure.
dabbling and moving on to something else. But then this year I made my New Year's resolution. I'm going to focus on filmmaking. So when
Cool.
in doubt, when I drift away from that, I'm like, nope, gotta focus on filmmaking. So that's the goal right
Right.
now.
Cool. Very, very cool. I think your teasers have been great. I think you have a really good eye, and if anybody wants to get a little taste,
Oh,
the things that are really cool is that invention of Morel, uh, the Shining exploration that you did. It was really, really cool, and also your cactus cult, America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots video.
that's right. Yeah.
It was cool, and so I really like what you do production value wise, and make it seamless and just natural part of the video and things like this. And I think you haven't even begun to really flex yet.
Well, this next one I feel like is a flex. I feel like I tried to really take my time with it. And thank you for saying that with the other of those. I think that Cult of the Cactus Boots in particular was one where I was like, I'm gonna really focus on trying to put in a bunch of extra visual elements and then up the ante even more in the one on the invention of Morel. Which if anyone watching hasn't read that, by the way, you can read that in about an hour and a half. It's a really slim novella and it's super cool. It inspired a fantastic movie called Last Year at Marienbad, which in turn inspired Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And so I think it's very rewarding to watch all three in tandem and then naturally come to my channel afterward to have me tie some of the threads together. Shameless plug right there. But yeah, this upcoming one is for The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton, and it's the most cinematic one that I've done so far. I've spent a lot of time working on it, and so yeah, I there are maybe slight spoilers at the very end of it. And so if you haven't read it, proceed with only slight caution. It doesn't like completely blow all of it. It's still an amazing book. So if you kind of know the gist of what happens at the end, it's still an amazing read. So
Right. So I'm totally ignorant to Edith Wharton. I tell you, I started my channel and jumped into a tag for my first video. It felt the most comfortable, right? And it was a favorite authors kind of thing. So I had to put together 10 of my favorite authors. So I did that, and through watching so many of those videos and that being like how I really kind of got into the community, Edith Wharton was on so many people's top 10 list. It was ridiculous. And I'm like, okay. And the only contact that I had with Edith Wharton before that was somebody who worked a librarian, told me that they loved Edith Wharton House of Mirth. That's a book that you must read. And I said, okay. So I got it. I got a little Bantam paperback, and I still haven't read it though. But you were really greatly affected by Age of Innocence. Is that right?
that's correct. I did read House of Mirth right afterward, and I did like it a lot. But Age of Innocence, in my opinion, is the one that just really punched me in the gut. It was just an amazing novel.
Right. So, can you speak into a little bit about what makes Edith Wharton maybe a little, maybe what makes her so loved to be on a top 10 list and something like up there with like Virginia Woolf or something, these amazing writers, Herman Melville, and who was a contemporary. Is that right? Melville was a contemporary.
I think they might have had some overlap, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Melville was a little bit earlier than Edith Wharton because Age of Innocence came out in like 1920, I think. I might be wrong about that, but yeah, I think her heyday was kind of turn of the century, whereas Melville I think was a little bit before that. But yeah, no, I'd be happy to speak on Edith Wharton. I think that the thing that surprised me most about it is that the kind of impression you get if you've never read her before is that this is like fancy rich people at dinner parties talking about lace and silverware and like super dry. And so like as somebody who's into Pynchon and David Foster Wallace, I just, would not really ever be interested in that kind of thing. But I was watching the Fran Lebowitz New York documentary shortly before moving to Brooklyn. And she has such a good way of just making all of her opinions sound like the most obvious objective truth in the world. And so she was just like, well, if you're a writer, you have to read Edith Wharton and The Age of Innocence. And I was like, oh, all right. Well, I guess I do now.
Then I shall. Right. I love
Exactly.
that. That's why I have House of Mirth, is because somebody said this is a great book. This is one of my favorite books. You have to read it, and I said okay, I'll get it. And that's just it. If somebody does recommend something very highly, say this is my jam, one of my favorite books, and they're readers, then I'll read it for sure. So got to get
Absolutely.
into
Yeah.
Edith Wharton. So what about her writing is so enduring? What do you think?
So I think the thing that surprised me the most about it is how comically judgmental she is of all of her characters.
Cool.
It plays just for a lot of laughs because if I understand correctly, she comes from money, but she really hated this social circle that had developed in America that she thought was very materialistic, very insular, very judgmental of outsiders. And so she just like skewers these characters that she writes about and talks about how hypocritical they are and gossipy. And as shallow as that sounds, she uses this to just say some of the most insightful things about like social interactions that I've ever seen. It's not quite as cosmic as like David Foster Wallace talking about humanity, but it's much more about this attention to detail in social dynamics that she just can throw away on the page. And you're like, oh my God, I
Nice.
never noticed anyone do that before.
Nice.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That's good. Okay, cool. And I do love that. You know, subtlety in mannerisms or subtlety in looks and and the effects those things have, or quips, or even uh subtexts in dialogue, and these kind of things that all work out to build somebody who's real perceptive of the nuances of these kind of things is so enjoyable. I think of, you know, kind of not akin to in content, but Jane Austen just being so good with dialogue that you just are in the room hearing them talk, and this is what they're doing and how it's going down. So maybe but even a total depart, a total flip from that with the lifestyle of the characters, I guess. If it's affluent, and then and being judgmental of their of the society from that perspective.
Definitely. Because I I've talked to a lot of different readers and different friends of mine who are into film that are
Hey
pretty
Danny,
easy.
how you doing? Sorry.
Oh no,
Hey
you're good.
Danny.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um,
I just gotta say hey.
but I understand how people can be kind of turned off by stories that investigate like super rich people because and in fact even in the introduction of my edition that was written by John Franzen, he talks about it's like there's a problem with sympathy here. It's like, why are we supposed to care about the fact that these rich people are having these problems? And I think that especially in House of Mirth, not as much in Age of Innocence, is that it really underlines this sense of American striving about how class is such an important unfortunate hierarchy in our society. And I think people have talked about this as like the bigotry of small differences, is that as gatekeepy as people can be in the upper class, in the small strata that exists within that upper class, it's even more vicious and more
Right,
brutal in the
right,
way that they
right,
say, no, you'll never be one of us. She'll
right,
never be one of us. And
right,
and that's like in the Age of Innocence, our main character is engaged to the girl who's very vapid, but society approves of, but then he falls in love with her cousin who's in this scandal. And in that
right,
society, it's so insular they would never allow it. So it's like a pretty classic setup, not reinventing the wheel or anything like that, but it is just so beautifully executed.
right.
And
Cool.
not going to say what happens at the end, but whew.
Cool. Nice. Very cool. Well, I mean, and you expect that, with it being something like you're saying, a story that doesn't, it is a structure that we know. It's not reinventing the wheel in that way. Then, for it to be stand the test of time and be so enduring, I do expect it to, do something that hadn't been done before with the story, or something, or be shocking, be something that really is affecting, and all that. But so much for Edith Wharton. Not wanting to necessarily get into that, but talking
Sure.
more into your thing that you put together because of Edith Wharton, her literature, and her power. So it was this kind of thing where you create a video because you moved to New York. You're
Mhm.
in some of these spots. There's the feel, and 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 so how did that evolve?
Well, I guess I didn't read Age of Innocence with the intention of shooting anything in New York, but since I was already moving here and watching that documentary, that's what made me read it. And then just in biking through Manhattan and seeing different places, I was like, "Oh, well, I wanna, like, visit these spots because it's not like when Pynchon, invents a fictional county in Los Angeles, in Crying of Lot 49, it's like, oh, she talks about Grace Church, and then you can like go and visit Grace Church, which
Right.
is where her characters got married. And I think that in an odd way, it's really exciting, but a similar disappointment of like seeing Mount Rushmore in person. is that you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, it kind of looks like I would expect it to. But too, just to remind it just reminds you that it was real, you know,
Yeah.
and and that she like really is trying to grasp at these themes that are not just kind of like a creative trifle for her. She was like actually observing the social circles around her and then coming up with a really brilliant story within it.
It's great. And I mean, the exploration of humanity is showing its vulnerability, like its truth. And so I can't wait for it. Do you want to show? I put together, I tell you, you Daniel had shared with me some clips. So what I did is I put together a little slideshow. I think that we can just like keep talking over it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So these little clips is stills from his video essay that he put together, and I put them just back to back.
Sure.
Uh, it has a nice cozy New York feel. I'll play it one more time. Like a winter New York feel, kind of industrial or commercial at least, right?
Hmm.
And the book and the feather, kind of harkening back, but in a literary sense to a time before. And then you in the snow. It's great. Just really so. I can't wait. Thank you for giving us a so much teaser of this thing because I'm down for it. You're not gonna spoil me on it. By the time I get into half of a book, I forget everything that anybody's ever told me about that book, and that author is giving me the story. You know what I mean? I'm
Sure.
I'm, I'm not sitting here analyzing and comparing to previous things, anything that I've heard of the book. I probably don't even think about any of it. Like totally forget it at that point, and just have the author giving me what they are there to do. So do you want to say anything about that?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Somebody commented on one of my one of my update videos on my channel, and they mentioned the term attention and release structure. And I think that that's really what makes The Age of Innocence work so well. Because, like, after reading so many postmodern novels, as mind blowing as they can be on a moment to moment basis and the imagery that they create, sometimes when I would finish them, I would just be like, oh, all right, I guess it's over now. And it's not as much about like building to this climax. Whereas I think what made The Age of Innocence so refreshing to me is that it just really is this kind of classic build up, and then she just like releases it. And I was in a coffee shop when I read this, and I
Yeah.
was like
When you
holding.
finished it,
Oh, dude, I was in public, which is the worst thing that I could have done. Because like I was gonna finish it later, but it's like it kind of started ramping up, and I got like 70 pages left in this book, but I was like,
right?
all right, here we go. And I was
It's
holding
on.
back tears.
Oh
And
no, in public, like
oh,
right.
dude, yeah. it I just had not been affected by a book like this in so long. And when it
So
was
good.
done, I almost it felt like I was in a movie theater and everybody else experienced it with me. So I wanted to like look around and share it with someone, and everybody else is just like sending work emails and stuff
Right.
like that. So
Doing the mundane
oh,
crap, and you just experience this a wonderful story climax. So that's a thing about that you don't get in a lot of postmodernism, right? So one thing I love to talk about, let's broaden it,
sure.
because
Yeah.
Daniel and I have had a lot of discussion before, and I'm getting a feel. And I think Daniel feels it too.
I think it's
So
time.
yeah, it's time. So Daniel is pretty learned. Like it is for literature, you have your stuff, and has read some wonderful postmodern works, and we had a great discussion on Infinite Jest. It was so cool because you have a whole thing, a relationship with this novel, and I had it for the first time, and we have this cool discussion. And then you come back, and a classic has this kind of effect, and it can't help but have you reassess this kind of thing. So it's great. And I have that kind of thing as well. It's the kind of thing of loving experimentation and pushing the envelope and going deeper into what we can create and construct mentally, idea wise, all that kind of stuff. And then more, and then at the other side of it is like pure storytelling, what speaks to your heart about about humanity, about being a human being and in the struggle or life, and not just the struggle but the uncertainty and all this kind of stuff that happens, making the wrong decision, making a right decision, trying as a human being and but ultimately failing or something, and just having the emotion of the feeling of being a human being wash over you in the perfect kind of storytelling way. So, but you and I both, I think, love both of those
Oh,
modes.
absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you want to speak into that a bit?
Well, sure. Yeah, because I definitely I think sometimes I'm hyperbolic. I've made several videos on my channel where I'm like, I'm never reading postmodernism again. And then like I read one other book that's not postmodernism and just go straight back to it. And so um like kind of my refrain with everything in my life is sometimes I need to quit things in order to just enjoy them more. And and
Right.
that's kind of been my experience with postmodern literature is that it has introduced me to not just a medium that I really like, but just to a completely different way of thinking about like dismantling concepts and belief systems and different ways of understanding yourself. But then too, sometimes they're messing so much with just what makes a story a story. The question I always come back to is like, well, why was fiction the medium you decided for these ideas? You know,
Right.
it's like, would this have been an essay? Could this have just been a documentary? Like,
Right.
and in my opinion, the best postmodernists like David Foster Wallace and Pynchon, they do have that humanity in there, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
it gets overlooked because the philosophy is there and the experimentation is there that we forget that on a scene level, David Foster Wallace's dialogue and subtext in the scenes is amazing, and
Amazing.
Pynchon has these like heartbreaking moments, like in Gravity's Rainbow. One of my favorite moments is when Pirate finds out that he's been inducted into the firm, and he and Katya just kind of resign themselves and dance on the balcony. It's like
Yeah.
that. It's I don't know why that makes me tear up, but it's so beautiful to see, and that's
Yeah.
got nothing to do with Wittgenstein
Right.
or
Right.
Capital or anything like that. So, um, exactly, like you need both. You need a both. Sometimes you want to have your mind
Mhm.
completely torn apart, and other times you just kind of want a three-act structure that takes you through the motions. You know, so.
Perfect. 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 And I mean, I gotta perfectly said, because when it comes down to it, this kind of thing that we love, even with the dichotomy that we're exploring, at the heart of it, you said it, it's something beautiful, it's beauty, something. And like
Absolutely, yeah.
once it attains this like level where you can call it beautiful and its beauty as a whole, then it's art, and that's what we
Oh,
love. And then we're just so there is a kind of level that it has to that something has to reach to be that, but that is like subjective, and it's collective, and it's part of humanity as well. We're here to create art, and we're here to experience art and beauty, kind of some of our calling, like what we are in our deepest humanity. So you're also really really interested in spiritual modes, and
yes.
to get into this kind of stuff, and uh some of the great discussions on your channel. You have discussions on qigong and this kind of body movements, and finding this kind of energy flow where you operate from a more harmonious level, and this kind of thing. So a more kind of authentic spirituality, even mentally, in this kind of way, I think. Um, I can see with you, but you're interested into all this kind of things as well. In what ways, if any, is that kind of thing playing out currently
Do you mean in a fictional context or just as a human being?
as a human being, brother? I want to broaden it to just us, like talking
Sure.
about
Yeah.
something bigger and broader, because we can do that. We can do it, and when we do it, we might blow some people's minds.
All right, so strap in everybody. um So I feel like I have reached just a greater state of clarity than I've ever had before. Um, in large part due to not smoking weed anymore, because that was something that brought me to these levels of transcendence, but very unreliably. And I think anyone who smokes marijuana can relate to that. Is that it really is an amazing medicine or drug or whatever your terminology is. But I wanted to go back to it every single day, and I did that for about 10 years, to varied results, to say the least. And after like eventually realizing that it was just not serving me anymore, or it was a bigger detraction from my life than it was a service, I ended up quitting and experiencing post acute withdrawal symptoms for about a year and a half, which
Damn.
is not very well documented. So, like, a lot
Sure.
of people think that you kind of get over it in a couple weeks, but if your dopamine receptors and all that stuff is screwed up over the course of like 10 years, you can't reasonably expect to just bounce back in a couple weeks, you know?
For sure.
And
For
so,
sure.
yeah, so I managed to quit and had like probably the blankest mental space in my entire life, where there were just no chemicals going on whatsoever. And then I think through um kind of like actually pulling away from some of the more fireworky aspects of spirituality and investing in just the more kind of like boring aspects of day-to-day life and experiencing mindfulness for
Sure.
the part that's not super fun,
Sure.
brought me to a greater level of clarity, which I was completely lacking in my life. So
Nice. So it's a kind of like a forced path because of a decision that you made. And that's cool because we're only our choices. So, as I can tell you, I've smoked a lot in my life. Okay. Uh and but um it's the same kind of thing when you make a decision to do something. You have to, when you really make a decision to do something, you do it, and then everything does change because that's a lifestyle change. And the amount of energy or effort that I have without is awesome.
yeah. Oh, it's night and
and
day.
so and so energy level is something that I cultivate and have cultivated for a long time. It's a Buddhist thing, because one of the perfections, one of the things that you can cultivate and never exhaust, along with patience, generosity, kindness, this kind of thing, is effort, is energy itself. So I know that it's infinite. I know. I mean, like, I feel in the depth of my being that energy to do whatever. Like, if I'm doing something that's a joy to me, a complete joy, then I can almost do it for an indefinite amount of time. It's just wonderful. You're gonna do it. So energy is an infinite thing. So believe it, go into it, and I just try to push that and cultivate my capacity. So pushing our reservoir is a big kind of thing like that. So I always, I do. The thing is being fractured, right? There's so many different aspects of our life that we have to like get into. And so uh doing things to try to not go into the hobbies. I play guitar as well. I'm a chess guy as well. I like to play chess.
Oh, I didn't know that
I
about
like
you.
to do, a lot of different stuff, like hobbies like that, but you got to say no and, like, kind of focus. So
Sure.
it kind of focuses your energy and all this kind of thing. So it's just an interesting thing to get into. I love that. I love that kind of thing because it's almost a touch is like a spirituality that touches the practical, right?
Yeah. There's a Carl Jung quote that was really meaningful to me when I was struggling with quitting. And it's kind of the idea of you're stealing from the gods. That's the thing that he says, is that like when you become too invested in symbolism and the imagination and the interior, you're kind of dwelling in a realm that isn't really meant for you. And so even though it can be very enlightening, um, sometimes it'll kick you out and just remind you it's like you are not a god. You are this weird primate that just got cursed into being alive, and so you need to go and do that thing now. And so, as many insights as I got from smoking weed, I think the gods kicked me out of their realm and were like, "Go get a job. Like you need to just kind of do the basic stuff because
Right.
you're really falling off on that end." So yeah, that's how it is.
I shocked Danny there, but I mean, it just is what it is, and energy
Hey,
is a
puff pets.
complete gold mine. Hey, Puff Pets, she rocks. Energy is a gold mine. I tell you. When it comes down to it, we only have, as far as time, the more fun and the more you put into something, the less time you have. It
Yeah.
goes by faster. So being bored and like sitting in mindfulness, these kind of things is so beneficial. It's amazing. So it's cool that you spoke into that kind of thing. And so being interested in like other modes, where are you at now with like a kind of spiritual mode maybe that you're interested in exploring?
So the one that I always come back to and get different things out of is kind of my vague understanding of Buddhism. Like I've read my texts and kind of done my homework and everything like that, but um it's cool, and having just gone through different changes, stuff that you think is passe ends up becoming super interesting, especially in sobriety. But just as I've grown older too, like
But isn't that what David Foster Wallace was talking about too? That there's like this profound, deep, ancient, like profound, visceral truth in the cliches,
Oh, absolutely. And
right?
and that's what is fun, because I do see it uniting all of these interests of mine. That it's like when I am splitting my energy and not focusing on things, the sort of kind of breadcrumb trail I feel like I'm being left is these like different messages that I can find in either pursuing art in different mediums, or in just like having to commit to working a steady job for a while, or for, meditating and
Right.
kind of showing up to have a crazy experience, and instead just be reminded it's like, oh yeah, like I'm just being shown myself. Like I don't really know what else I expected.
Right. Right.
It's just me.
And like with it's crazy being a parent. So I can speak into that just a little bit, that I see that very clear with my girls coming up and growing up, where I'm just like, hey, it doesn't matter how you try to, present yourself or put up a front in ways that you do that kind of stuff, you reveal yourself, even in the concealments, even in the kind of things that you put up, you're revealing yourself. How you do that, how you do whatever, people are smart. We see these kind of things in each other. We see them.
I th-
So,
that's a
you
very
know,
profound point. Yeah.
yeah. And same thing with words, brother. Right? Because and I tell my girls this all the time too. Anytime I can try to really get it, is like, when you say words, when the words that you're saying, they reveal exactly what you are, like what you think inside, no matter how you mask it or lie it or whatever. Like, people know these kind of way, a twist in the inflection of the voice, or a kind of sigh after words are spoken. They mean so much, and we know these things. We know what people do to and when that kind of thing happens, even if the person that you're talking to is not intellectual and doesn't put it into words to you, they know.
Oh
They
yeah.
know who you are. You've revealed yourself to them, and we can't help but do that. It's even hard, even saying that kind of thing, for me to apply that in my own life, because we get caught up in the time flow, and you can't stop and think and know, and be that mindful in the moment, that this person is actually seeing me in a different way that I think, or that I'm seeing me, or that I think this person perceives me, and like give them that, and like, that's the whole practice, is to like be more, be able to be more mindful, be able to do that. So just it's a kind of a paradox that sitting quietly alone is the way to flex that, but it happens, you know. So
Yeah.
that was a whole lot.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I have so many different responses to this. It's hard to pick just one.
Bring
Um,
it. Bring them all.
so my immediate thought is just that what stuck out to me is just that it's impossible not to communicate something. And so since I've been working at a school recently and been around a bunch of like 13-year-olds for the first time and probably since I was 13,
Right.
it's so fascinating to see how simultaneously complex they are, but then also adolescent as well, that they're still
Sure.
figuring out how to communicate. And
Right.
what is so cool is like you can't help but put yourself back at that time and be like, what did I feel like what was going on? And then you map yourself onto what they're doing, and they're of the impression that the words that they say and the narrative that they spin is the truth, regardless of what any subtext may or may not exist. Is that like if they lie to your face and you confront them with proof, they'll double down because
Yeah.
no, I didn't lie, and they mean it too. They mean it, and
Well,
it's hilarious.
and that's what that kind of thing. There's a cliche for that, you know, like the teenager, you know, knows it all, knows everything, you know, and it's just
Exactly. Yeah.
this inability to say, okay, yeah, you're right, you know, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I was messing with, or I was lying, or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's it's so cool that you're in that.
Oh, it's been a fascinating experience because like these kids are great, and so I don't mean to make the only anecdote about them to be about this deceitful thing, but I
But
think
it's because of the self-reflective aspect, like you're saying, you know, you're
absolutely.
it's the, well, how was I like that, you know, and then you learn more about developing and like the growth, how that kind of thing happens, you know, because it doesn't happen consciously. But true spiritual practice, and we're getting even deeper in that kind of way, true spiritual practice is about making unconscious things conscious in a
Yeah,
big way. Like you can just say that, and that can be a fundamental definition of spiritual practice, making all the unconscious things conscious. And that kind of thing is part of that. You know, your thought stream and going through what you did when you were 13 or 14 is an unconscious behavior compared to your adult mind that can reflect and say, well, why did I make this kind of decision? Why did I make it? It's because you thought it was best at the time. That's
sure.
why you made the decision
Yeah,
that you made. But with an older mind, you can say, "Well, why did I think it was best at the time?" And then you see not only how your psychology is working out and how growth and development works, but then on a bigger level, you see the truth that unites us all. That what seems to us best at the time is how we behave, and that's it.
absolutely.
You know, and that's it. Like everybody's going after their own happiness in some kind of way, and maybe in a effed up kind of way, but they're going towards their own idea, you know, what they think is going to make them happy.
Definitely. And then I would say like in addition to behavior too, it's very much just about maintaining control over how you come off. And so that is just such a fundamental aspect of whether you're a 13-year-old or any age. That is very true too. um, but it kind of makes me reflect on my own um attempts to manage how I come off to other people because plenty of people I think claim to just be, no, I'm just completely genuine. I'm just saying what comes to my mind. I don't put on any front. But if you do, I think you're giving away that you're just not aware,
Right.
or you don't want to appear
If
too
you say
calculating.
that, then you're giving away that you're not aware of what you're doing as your front. For sure. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody's kind of projecting themselves outward, right?
yeah,
I mean, we have the consciousness is inside. So we're all projecting outward. And by the time we get beyond our skin, you've already added layers already. You know it. Everybody
Yeah.
knows.
Well,
Period.
and that to me has been one of the most fascinating Buddhist concepts, I think. And I read it in a book called What the Buddha Taught. And the way that they describe it in breaking down that the illusion of self really just is these aggregates of sensation, one of which is your like bodily sensations. It was a big inspiration in my book for one, just this, but then also just in my daily life is that it, and this is an experience, not a conceptual point, that you can just feel like your body is this thing that's like kind of hanging on this invisible node like a hanger.
Right.
And it's like it doesn't always fit right. And like
Right.
because I have terrible posture because like I read and sit over desks. And so I just find myself as I'm standing teaching these kids just trying to just like find a natural position and then be like, well, if I get this feeling in my spine, do I look like I'm trying to appear
Right.
regal, or am
Right.
I just trying to be
Yeah.
comfortable? You know?
Yeah, but, in front in the moments, you're thinking about how you're being viewed and things like this all the time. Everybody
Absolutely,
is,
absolutely,
and to act like you're not, and to act like, well, the only way to be a truly authentic and genuine person is to not think about that kind of stuff. You're kidding yourself. You're
oh yeah,
totally kidding yourself. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing. There's so many different views of um what it is to kind of gain a view of who you are. But spiritually speaking, I think like the best way to break it down is that you're trying to integrate into a whole. That's what it is. all the
oh yeah,
different all the different things, inner, outer, all the different, all everything, all your substance to use is parts of a whole. And integrating that, all that, and seeing that it all, seeing how it is part of, is all one, is that, you know what I mean? Instead of, in lieu of going to a certain symbolic system, a certain uh, s- spiritual mode to illustrate it, I like to stay in this kind of free form place when I talk about spirituality, and I can go into different modes, and I like to, but I like to stay in a freer spot because it reduces misunderstanding. But when people have certain spiritual modes that they have adhered to, then they might feel where you're like not on their side or something,
sure,
because they already have kind of like walls or boundaries built around what they think. And it's just, that's a mental, a psychological kind of thing. But I love the spiritual exploration. So finding that kind of place in my content, I think I've done an all right job of so far, but I want to do more. And I just wonder, you were talking about maybe cinematics, but what kind of ways would you like to flex your content in the future? Or you know uh another project, or future projects that you're kind of thinking of?
well, I think along the spiritual lines in content, something that I've been trying to make a motto recently is that it's like it's not about parsing texts, and obviously we both have book channels, so it sounds like I'm like quitting that or something like that. But I think the idea, and you made me think of this when you said that some people really adhere to one path and you like kind of more of a patchwork system and kind of grab, and I'm the same way. I don't like to nail myself down to one thing. Um, because I just don't think that one has the most to offer than any other. These are like different ways of translating this ineffable experience with the divine or with transcendence or whatever you want to call it. And so within content, my focus in order to communicate kind of those bigger ideals is to just really simplify and to try to actually make it less of an intellectual exercise, because I think I needed it in those terms to have it spelled out to me because I am a very heady person. And so reading somebody
Right.
like Pynchon and David Foster Wallace, I actually
Right.
consider a huge stepping stone in my spiritual understanding. But
Yeah,
then
me too. Me too.
Yeah,
I mean, totally. I'm totally with you, and like intellectually geared. So, yeah, very very cool.
yeah. And then just but then also like realizing that it actually is inaccessible for a lot of people. Like I've tried to recommend those authors to some people and they're just like I can't do it. And I don't want to make it about this thing that like you have to, be an advanced reader to get at something that anybody can experience if you have like enough time to sit and close your eyes for 5 minutes. And so I mean, yeah, just the general thrust of like I want to kind of like remove the jargon, make it less intellectual and much more just exciting and trying to get people to try it out with like less of a barrier to entry.
Cool. And I mean, I think you got a good thing for that with with your approach with cinematics, because you can, in the visuals and how things work out, you can work out the feels, and with the things that you bring as far as narration content and content to it, you can work out exploring the ideas. It's very very cool.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it, brother. And my boy, I Larry Romano, thank you for coming by the channel. First Friday that I've seen you in the live, says, nail yourself down to one thing that makes me think of something, right? And so, yeah, when it comes down to it, there is a push in even spiritual circles, right? To do what we've talked about even from the beginning of tonight, where you don't focus on everything because then you're less effective, right? You want to hone it, you
Sure.
want to like laser focus it. So you pick a belief system, right? Pick a symbology, pick a belief system and go and kind of devote to it and see how you can develop yourself, if you can develop yourself. And so nail yourself down to one thing. I'll say personally myself, if I'm going to nail myself to down to one thing, it's what I um, was pointing to, is how I like to kind of keep it is like pure spirituality. It's not, we don't need ideas or intellectualism to be laid on top of, and some kind of rational understanding of it to be laid on top of what the experience is itself. It's experience only. There's an outer to experience and there's an inner to our experience. And there is a Buddhist school that follows this. It's called Yogacara, and it's wonderful. And it's called experience only. That's what Yogacara means. Experience only school of Buddhism. And it is it breaks everything down to this duality of outer and inner, um and everything else kind of falls away. And falls away because there is uh a universality in that. Is there's you can't speak words into it. It can only be really just kind of experienced. So in other ways, in this talk tonight, we've touched on just experience of sitting there and breathing, because the dichotomy of that is that same thing. You have your breath that was once outside of yourself that is now inside, and then becomes outside of yourself again, and the next breath. And what am I? And what is this other? And this kind of thing. And so nothing falls outside of the realm of an idea, uh, of of experience, of just your conscious experience. So it's so hard to break down, or like to dig in to that level that doesn't add something very quickly. But I feel like that kind of thing is the goal. That's pure spirituality, being able to experience a real situation, even an extreme situation, um, without adding anything to it in any kind of way. How you train for that is experiencing a situation where nothing is happening, meditation,
Mhm.
without adding anything to it. And it takes a long time. I mean, I still can't do it, not add something to the experience, because the mind is ridiculous, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That that makes me think that, like, one of the things that I think has been drawing me to filmmaking a little bit more recently is that I used to be
Yes. Yes.
was
Be as a laser focused on the truth itself.
oh, I see.
There you go. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Um, no, but, I used to be really frustrated by Stanley Kubrick's movies because I always thought at the end of them, there were these amazing visuals that seemed to suggest so much, but then it didn't really add up to anything for me. And then in recently watching The Shining for that video essay that I did, that was actually what I found extremely profound and haunting about it, was that it gave me this experience that was so abstract, and any interpretation that I could try to lay over it really just took away from what it was. And I think that's what makes it such a brilliant piece of art, is that anything that you try to tell me that The Shining is about, it just isn't, you know? Let
Right.
alone stuff about him confessing to the moon landing, but just even trying to describe what is Jack's character arc in The
Right.
Shining.
Right.
It's like I can kind of take a stab at it, and I did it in that essay, but at the end of the day, I think film in particular is really good at evoking the ineffable in a way that it ends, and you're like, I don't even want to touch it. I don't even want to
Right.
try to tell you what it meant. It just is. It made me feel
Yeah.
all of these different things.
Right.
It
Right.
seems to say something, but I'm not
I
going to say
mean,
what it
you
is.
know, Duvall's performance in that is the visceral. It's amazing in
Oh
The
yeah,
Shining. And then Jack's performance is 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 beyond what you see in normal movies, but Jack Nicholson can do it, especially. I love The Departed, Jesus Christ.
oh my
But
god, yeah,
Stanley Kubrick is, you know, they call him what, the boy wonder. I mean, he is a complete genius, was a complete genius. Um, Cinematography and this kind of seeing how to present and to get deep into an audience visually, even without, just with some striking music and a visual.
absolutely. Like I mean, this is kind of an obvious scene to bring up, but in 2001, when they're deprogramming Hal, and his speech just like slowly devolves as they're taking the um, microchips out, is just like you could write a thesis on it, but it's not what it is. It's
Right.
just this haunting thing.
Right. I love it. I mean, and we're there. So Larry Romano, I mean, he really is is here for this stuff, and I'm down for it too.
I have a
So
lot
he
to say
says,
about this, Larry.
see, I like Larry. I love it. I disagree that experience is everything. Well, I mean, tell me what is outside of your personal experience then. But reason is what separates us from the animals. It's a gift that helps us know the truth. For sure. It's not the experience itself outside of conscious experience. I'm talking about conscious experience. You experiencing a moment. That's what it is. All right. So there's a dichotomy there. There is the inner of the witness, the consciousness that is here. And then there's the outer that is this experience of something, of the world, of the reality, whatever you're in right then. Right. So there's just two sides of experience. But I'm not talking about an objective only experience as being where truth is held, because it's not that. It's conscious experience. That's where the truth is, because consciousness is what it is. Being able to reflect that there is an experience being had, that's what it is, because we grow. It's all like, there's something there, and say, what am I doing, and have an idea. That's what it is. There's not that I'm not making any kind of assertion in any kind of way. That's why I call it pure as far as the spirituality that I'm talking about with that, because it is very much, there's no concept or idea laid on top of it. That's what makes it something that to me is super interesting and that I want to pursue, but you can't pursue just intellectually. You have to just try it. Try to experience and break down all the different walls and different concepts and ideas that we lay over every experience and just say, there is this, there is that. I am witnessing this, I am witnessing that. And do it for a sustained amount of time. 15 minutes, just sit, don't try not to think of anything, just to experiencing itself. I think it's a beautiful idea. What do you think?
I mean, absolutely. I agree, and Larry, I understand as well. Because I definitely think reason is very important, and it's an amazing thing. But I find very central to my outlook on life that it's just one of the tools in our toolbox,
Right.
and it's like we need to use it in certain important circumstances, but sometimes I think we internalize a sense that that's the only thing that we should do is determine the truth or create an account of an experience, which I think can actually take you out of an experience when you try to know what it
Sure.
is or evaluate it or kind of run it through the standard filter of determining what happened and putting that into words. And so the quote that I think of from Wittgenstein, I'm probably going to get some of the words wrong, but it's something along the lines of like, what we cannot speak, or like, of what we cannot speak, we must remain silent. And I think what you think of that quote can say a lot about your outlook on the world, is that if it can't be put into words, is it therefore nonsense and non existent? Or is he actually talking about things that we cannot speak and we have to remain silent about that exist? And I'm of the belief that there is within conscious experience a realm of things that cannot be put into words. It is like awareness in itself or consciousness in itself that is not like enlightenment, like an ideal or this kind of crazy far off thing that we aspire to but always fall short of. But it's a thing that we are capable of, but it's not always reliable to get there. It's like it can kind of
Right.
bubble up in random moments, and you try to get better at chasing it.
Yeah. I definitely feel that. I definitely feel that. And think you're onto it for sure. You know, when it comes down to it, we do have a lot of tools in our toolbox that way. The reasoning part of our experience is not, you know, the main, or not the only thing to approach reality with. There's a But the other kind of things are, there's other things, like the heart, the body, a purely material understanding. These kind of things, there's an aspect of those as well that is just as much incommunicable. So when it comes down to it, I that's why I think when we are trying to talk broadly about it, it's just, it's so wide. The experience is so broad for human beings, and we're all in this boat together. No matter how different our experiences are, and you're on an awesome journey, and it's awesome that you're sharing it with everybody. And I really dig what's coming up. I can't wait to see what's in store for your channel and your content. It's I love art, and I love art house, and I love uh you know this kind of uh creating atmosphere, just visually or even through auditorially, right?
Sure.
So that's coming up. Your exploration in that, for Age of Innocence, but I look forward to what's coming up in the future as well. Let me know. Well, maybe we need to do a buddy read. Maybe we need to set something up in the future. But it seems like you and I have a connection just in exploration of literature. So I'm sure that easy things will come up in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We've been connected through the power of YouTube to transmit these Buddhist postmodern ideas to the people of Earth.
It's so good. So thank you, Daniel Becker. Off
Oh,
the wall
thank you.
novels. I'll have you in the description box, all this kind of stuff. You guys are
Thank you.
great. Thank you, BookTube, for hanging out with us on a Friday night. Um, Daniel, thanks for giving me your Friday night as well.
Oh, thank you for having me, Noah. It was great.
It's always cool hanging out with you and talking anything books or just ideas. I mean, I dig big ideas. So let's go at it, brother. See you next time.
All right.
Bye,
Thanks again, Noah.
BookTube.